Hey there, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be sharing my 5 top tips for how to overcome bulimia. So before we do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of context about who I am and how I developed bulimia, and ultimately then how I overcame it. My name is Victoria Evans, and I struggled with bulimia since the age of 12, which meant that for over 10 years I had this horrible eating disorder, and it really took over my life in so many ways. So from the age of 12, it was kind of on and off, and then it wasn't until my late teens, early 20s, that I'd gone on a really restrictive diet. So I'd gone on Instagram, I'd looked up the influencer with the best abs, and I bought her 12-week weight loss guaranteed program. So on this program, it was extremely restrictive. I was working out countless number of hours a day, and I was losing weight really quickly. People were praising me, telling me, I'm an inspiration, blah, blah, blah. But I was starving. I was starving. And so initially it was anorexia and orthorexia. And then eventually, as this continued on and my body continued to shrink away and I was becoming more restrictive, it started to turn to binge eating. So binge eating, which is eating a large quantity of food in a very short time period, and almost feels very out of control, very frantic. And so when I started to binge, I was freaking out because I thought to myself, oh my God, I can't put back on this weight, right? I can't gain this back. Everyone knows me as the girl who lost all this weight, and this was my new identity. So I started to panic. And sure enough, I fell back into bulimia that had been kind of going on and off since the age of 12, came back with such vengeance now that I'd gone into such restriction. And so when I say, my bulimia kind of really picked up, I mean it really picked up. As in, I would eat essentially 300 calories maybe during the day, work out 2-3 hours, get home at night after work, and I would be buying hundreds of dollars on Uber Eats. So I was too afraid to have any food in the house, which meant that my cupboards were empty, my kitchen was empty completely. So because I thought that was, how I was going to not binge, was by not having any food in the house, which doesn't work at all. But then what would happen is I would just end up on these crazy late night buying everything in sight, consuming everything as fast as I could, and then realizing, what's wrong with me, thinking I was broken, being terrified of any weight gain, and then throwing everything up. And so this went on for a long time, and I took on a ton of debt because it cost so much money to be spending hundreds of dollars a night on food. And it really just destroyed my life completely until I had this rock bottom moment where I was running up a mountain at 3 a.m. because I had too much trail mix and I was afraid that I hadn't purged all of the trail mix out of my system. So I went on a 30-kilometer run at 6 a.m. Yeah, so there's that. Well, it finished at 6 a.m. It started at 3 a.m. Anyways, so at that point, I came back, I called the eating disorder hotline, and I finally got help for the first time in my life and really opened up about bulimia and my struggles with anorexia, orthorexia, binge eating, as well as my depression and anxiety. So I really just laid it all out there and I started to get help. Now, for me, I had a hard time with the traditional recovery systems with counselors and therapists just because I felt like they didn't understand me. They didn't understand the fact that I felt like a crazy person when I started to binge on foods and couldn't stop myself. And I felt like a bit judged, and I would go every week and bring up all these emotions, and then I would just be leaving and I'd go back to work and I'd feel, just so everything was brought up and I didn't know how to calm myself back down again without food. So then it kind of just perpetuated this cycle of needing food to kind of release and cope. And so I kind of had to do a lot of my own research and dive into recovery in my own unique way. And that is why I kind of wanted to share with you today some of my 5 top tips, my 5 tools for how I really started to get through bulimia recovery after struggling with it for 10 years. And towards the end, I was throwing up 15 plus times a day. It was absolute madness. It was absolute madness. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, which is why I am creating this video so that hopefully it can help you if you are currently struggling, because you deserve a life without this eating disorder. You deserve a life where you can eat food without fear, not restrict, and not be binging. And so that is what I'm going to do. So for the first tip, I want to share with you is I basically had to really base initially my bulimia recovery in some fear. And so a lot of bulimia is the fear of, weight gain. So eating too much food and then having that weight stay on your body. And so for me, when I initially started recovery, I had to really focus on this one area, which was that when I'm constantly purging, when I'm constantly throwing up, it was causing my salivary glands to swell. And I'm going to butcher this name for sure, but it's like saladinosis. You guys, Saladenosis. Basically, it's like it makes your cheeks look like chipmunks, super puffy, and as well as like your under eyes, they get really swollen and like protruded. And so for me, like this was really scary that bulimia was causing my face to swell. It was causing my eyes to look puffy because, at this point, all I cared about was my appearance. All I cared about was keeping my body small. And so the fact that, consequently, by me purging all the time, I was making my face really big was really scary. And so the first tip I have to you is that anytime you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go purge right now, I'm going to go eat a bunch of food and then throw up right after, think to yourself, I'm going to cause myself to have these like chipmunk cheeks and puffy and swollen eyes. And sometimes it happens for people while they're still like consistently purging. Sometimes it happens the first week or two after you stop purging. But regardless, it's one of those things where it can be so scary that your face is going to alter because of this. And I know for myself, I didn't really care about a lot of the other side effects. Like my hair was falling out, I'd lost my period, my skin had dried up. All these different things that I was kind of like, I don't even care anymore. It was like an addict. You just do whatever to get the money to pay for the drugs kind of idea. Like I didn't care that I was causing all this harm, but I cared that my face was starting to morph and look really swollen. So one thing that was like the first thing for me was like, I had to think about the fact that, okay, if I go throw up right now, I'm going to make my cheeks look really puffy, which is going to make me look heavier. And so that tip for me, that was kind of that first kind of notch for me that just allowed me to really kind of pause and take a second and think, okay, do I actually want to do this right now? Because it was going to make me look larger, which at that point in my recovery was like the absolute scariest thing. The second tip I have for you is to have constant reminders as in quotes, sticky notes, everything, all these things. So basically what I've done, and I'll share my favorite quotes at the end of this video, so stick around for that. But basically I researched and created a Pinterest board that had all my favorite recovery quotes. Even things like, I will get hungry again, or, a bad day in recovery is better than any day with an eating disorder, or, I destroyed my body for a peace of mind that never came. Like those kind of different quotes like that. And sometimes we forget that we want to recover. Sometimes we have moments where we want to recover and other moments where we're like, I don't even friggin' care anymore. And so it helps to just have that constantly brought up to the front of your mind, like, why am I recovering? Why am I doing this? And so what I would do is I had covered my apartment in sticky notes. So it was on my mirrors, it was in my kitchen, it was on my toilet, it was everywhere, it was in my wallet. All these little sticky notes with these little quotes on it and reasons why I wanted to recover. So, I'd even thought about, think of mom and dad, think of, your sisters, think of, like the different quotes I would write out, like all these different things that would just cause me to pause long enough to think, do I actually want to go through with this? And so in addition to the different sticky notes and having that everywhere, I also had them scheduled into my phone. So it suggests to you that after I think it's fun to create Pinterest boards of all the different quotes, like writing them out and then putting them in your phone as a notification to come up even like 20, 30, as many times a day as you need. And, we're always checking our phone. So if we're not always in a space where we're seeing sticky notes and stuff, but just having something come up on your phone that says you're worthy of recovery, or you are so much more than your body, or whatever that is, and constantly having that prompt come to the front of your mind can really, really help a lot. So that would be my second tip for you, is to have all these little reminders and quotes coming up all over the place. And with that, I would also suggest that you are changing up the quotes and changing up where you post them. Otherwise, you can start to just stop seeing them at a certain point. You just kind of get really used to them. So always be like changing them up, always be switching them, looking for new quotes, ones that resonate more, this or that, so that it's always kind of fresh in your mind and it doesn't just become, just I forget that you see it anymore kind of thing. My third tip is to have a support system. Now, for me, I was convinced that I could just recover on my own. I didn't need anyone else. But the thing is that when you have an eating disorder, it's not really an illness of the body, right? It's an illness of the mind. And so you think you can recover, you think you can do it on your own, but you're not always in your right mind. You're not always thinking rationally. And so sometimes you need to bring in other people to really help facilitate those rational choices and to keep you accountable in recovery. So for myself, I know things really started to shift when I talked to my mom about it for the first time, which was the scariest thing. I still remember it was like a full body shaking experience. Like it was like, just think about it now, I'm like, oh my God. It was terrifying. But then she was like, hugged me and said, like we're going to get through this. And I know everyone has different support systems and levels of people that they can really relate to, but regardless of if it's an in-person opportunity to connect with someone, there's so many support groups online. There's eating disorder hotlines, therapists, counselors, coaches, forums, all of these different things, Facebook groups. The list goes on and on and on, but I can promise you that I would not have been able to recover if I thought I was just going to be doing it on my own, because you need someone in those moments to really encourage you. And for myself, in those moments where I was like, I don't even friggin' care anymore, like I'm just going to go and purge, thinking like, I know my mom is going to call me tomorrow and ask how are things, and I'm going to have to tell her, hey, last night I had a rough night, or last night I purged, and blah, blah, blah. And knowing I didn't want to have that conversation, I didn't want to have that discussion. I wanted her to be proud of me, and I wanted everyone supporting my recovery to be proud of me. And so I was able to bring it outside of myself and bring in other people who really helped me to overcome it. And I used to think really, it was like this burden that I had to bear. It was my war, my battle basically to fight. But then I was able to bring in all these other people to help me win this battle together. And so I urge you to bring in other people in your recovery. And when it comes to having the support system, not even just in person, but also online. So again, there's so many different communities, but for me, really curating your social media, for example, to include a lot of inspirational people to help you see what life can be like in recovery. Because I know for myself, I never thought it was going to be possible to be happier at a different way, or to be happy, not having the opportunity to binge and purge and blah, blah, blah. Like I didn't realize that life really existed for me because I hadn't seen it. All I saw on my feed was people who were in very tiny bodies, which, I mean, it depends on the person. If you're in a small body, it's absolutely great for you, but it wasn't natural for me to be in a very, very thin body, which I was forcing myself to be in when I was struggling with bulimia. And so it's important to curate your social media as well, so that you see yourself represented and you see what life can be like in recovery. So it's really that inspiration for you. So I invite you to follow different accounts on, for example, on Instagram. So Victoria Evans Official is my account. Definitely check that out. I'm always posting stuff. My friend who also has an awesome account at ED Recovery Girl. So ED and recovery, and then girl is spelled GURL. I also have another friend, Own It Babe, and also Christy Harrison. So it's CH1STY and then Harrison, HARRISON, at Recovery Warriors. I'll tag those all below for you. That's just to name a few people, but can really help you to see what is possible in recovery and how your life can truly be better having released this disorder. So if you want more names, I have a whole stockpile of them. So just let me know, either drop a comment below or find me on Instagram and DM me, and I'm happy to send you a bunch more accounts that you should definitely check out and follow. My fourth tip for you is to throw the scale away. So I know you're thinking like, oh, if I throw the scale away, my weight is going to take off and things are going to be out of control. But I promise you, it is the scale that is keeping you stuck in bulimia, right? So, if our weight goes up, we think, oh my God, we're out of control. We need to restrict more. And then what happens when you restrict? You want to binge more. What happens when you binge? You end up purging. And so, or it's the weight is controlling so much of how you and eat different foods. And in recovery, you're healing, right? It's like you need to take care of your body, you need to heal. And having a scale, it's just the opposite. It's basically continuing on this disorder. And so additionally, I'm not going to lie to you, when you start in bulimia recovery, depending on how much you've been purging, there's a really good chance that your weight is going to increase because of water weight. Okay, because when you're always throwing up all the time, you become really dehydrated. And so your body is not getting enough water. Even if you think you are, regardless, when you are throwing up a lot, you're dehydrating yourself. And so initially, especially the first few weeks, there's a really good chance that you're just going to put on some water weight just to actually get yourself back to the place where your body is at a healthy place with water. And so throwing the scale away removes that fear of, oh my God, I can't believe I put on a few pounds of water, whatever it is, because there's a really good chance that your weight will go up for that reason only. So I used to think, oh my God, I'm filled with fat now. I put on so much weight. I ate so much, and it's like, no, it's just water. Like, just allow yourself the freedom and do yourself a gift and throw the scale away, because I promise you it is keeping you stuck in bulimia recovery. And I know it's super scary. Trust me, I literally had a full-blown meltdown when I threw it away. Basically had a morning of this throwing away this scale because it was so scary. But I promise you that it will really, really, really help you. The fifth tip I have is to stop restricting. So I thought that I could just stop the binging, but keep the restriction aspect of it. Almost like if you have like a mathematical equation, it's like binging plus restriction equals bulimia. I thought I could just get rid of the binging part, which would get rid of the bulimia, but keep the restriction. Right? So I was like, I'm just gonna still eat really low amount of calories, but I'm just gonna be better at not binging and not purging. But here is the thing. When you get too hungry, you actually set yourself up to binge. And it's basically like saying to yourself when you get too hungry, you know what? I think I want to spend my time later throwing up. That's essentially what what you're doing when you let yourself get too hungry. Because how your brain works, when your energy levels are getting too low, when your body is like, whoa, we're super energy deficient right now, you're going to get crazy urges to eat more high calorie, high sugar foods because calories are energy, right? So every time that we're restricting and thinking, oh yeah, we're going to compensate for the binge last night, or we're trying to be good today, or we're just basically trying to restrict to change our body size, we are telling our brain, hey, we're super low energy right now, so later on we're probably going to try to get that energy levels way back up by eating a bunch of sugary, high-calorie food. And so don't let yourself get too hungry. Do not restrict, because you cannot just not binge and keep the restriction aspect. Trust me, I tried. I promise you, I wouldn't lie to you, it does not work that way. And so I can also send you a free screensaver. So I created a little wallpaper on my phone. It basically goes through the different hunger levels and fullness levels. So if 0 is like, I'm about to fall over, pass out, die, I'm so hungry. And 10 is like, I'm so full, I can't move. I can feel the food all the way up to my neck, rolling around, that kind of deal. So basically with this hunger scale, it kind of shows you kind of the different points of satiation, when is a good time to stop eating, when's a good time to start eating, and it can just help you give a lot of clarity. And anytime you get to an extreme hunger, there's a good chance you're going to get to extreme fullness. So keeping it kind of more in that mid-range of, I'm going to start eating when I'm hungry, and when you start doing that, it's a lot easier to stop eating when you are full. So if you want me to send you that screensaver, be sure to just hop on over to Instagram. It is at Victoria Evans Official, and I'll be happy to just DM you that. So those are 5 super quick tips. I could literally go for days with different things. So I'm actually a science-based intuitive eating coach, and so I go a lot deeper into these different tools, techniques, as well as the education about recovery in my online programs, and even on my Instagram account, where I really teach women how to stop food fear and guilt so that they can eat effortlessly and intuitively. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I absolutely invite you to check me out on Instagram. Again, that's at Victoria Evans Official, because you do not have to do this alone. I know it's hard, I know it's scary, but you can absolutely do this, and I am more than happy to support you along the way. All right, and stay tuned, because I'm about to drop some of those quotes that I have on my Pinterest board in the end of this video, so be sure to take some notes. And again, I invite you to create your own Pinterest board of different quotes that can really help inspire you in your recovery. Best of luck going through all these different tips. Comment below if you found this helpful, and add me on Instagram and shoot me a message as well if you have watched this video. All right, thank you so much for watching my first YouTube video. I hope you have a fabulous day.